On his farm in rural Lincolnshire, Paul Horton has good reason to be very cautious about his next big trip down the A1. Every year he chauffeurs millions of passengers up and down Britain's longest road.
I was brought up around bees. My father's been a bee farmer for most of his life. I started helping him out when I was a teenager. I didn't always enjoy it, but somewhere along the line I really kind of grew to love it and don't think I'd do anything else now. Our bees aren't just producing honey for us. We offer them as a pollination service to growers and farmers.
Tonight, Paul will be taking his bees south to pollinate apple orchards in Kent.
We'll be transporting around 30 hives, just under 1 million bees. We use the A1 a lot, multiple times a year. We probably travel around 10,000 miles up and down the country, transporting bees to orchards, flowering crops and heather moors.
With a long journey ahead, the farm is a hive of activity. First, Paul needs to check his bees are fighting fit and calms the residents with a specialist smoke.
We're looking for a young, healthy queen. We're looking for honey stores to make sure they've got enough for the journey. And we're looking for just the sheer amount of bees to make sure they're strong enough to provide a good job on pollination.
An active queen is essential to steadily increase the population of the hive.
There's the queen of this colony. You can see she's maybe double the size of a worker and she's got a little white dab on the back of her thorax.
With the health check complete, it's time to box up the bees. But moving such a delicate cargo is a tricky business, so Paul's drafted in his brother Giles to help.
When you're actually manhandling them or manually moving them, you don't want to bang them. So you want to try and be gentle with them, not drop them. Don't bang the beehive, as my dad said.
Just check the ratchet strap there, Jig, to make sure it's nice and tight. Yeah. Brilliant.
They are generally pretty well packed in there, so they shouldn't slide. We do take roundabouts particularly slowly. On the straight, it's not so much of an issue, but roundabouts, cornering, you've got to take it really steady.
And with almost 1 million bees on board, it's vital that Paul and Giles keep their cool.
It's quite important that we make good time tonight. If we get delayed in traffic or it starts to warm up in the morning, it's going to create a lot of heat inside the van and the bees are going to warm up. And if it gets too warm, it'll actually damage or even kill some of the bees. So that's the main reason we travel at night. They are a precious cargo, really, and they're a livestock at the end of the day, and we've got to take as much care as possible when transporting them, because, yeah, they're living animals.
With the bees packed and settled, Paul and Giles head off on their 250-mile journey through the night, down the A1 and on to Kent.
You get onto the A1 and it always feels like you're like properly on the way down. It looks nice and empty for us as well, which is good.
That's what we want this time of night.
Just us and the truckers.
And as regular travellers on the A1, Paul and Giles know they need to be on the lookout for any hidden hazards.
Oh,
that was a big one.
That was a bad one.
Yeah,
you did well to avoid that one.
Yeah, they're the ones we've got to look out for. These bumps that we keep going over, these potholes, can sort of jar the honey loose and it can actually nearly drown the hives if they collapse.
But Paul and Giles can't afford to slow down too much.
That's probably the worst we've had so far, I think. Yeah.
It's just a couple of hours to sunrise, which could spell trouble for this precious load if the temperature in the back of the van begins to increase. In Cambridgeshire, Paul and his brother Giles and their bizarre cargo are 100 miles into their journey to Kent.
These corners are ever so tight, aren't they?
They are a bit, yeah. Hopefully nothing's shifted while we've been driving.
With almost 1 million bees on board, it's vital the hives are given a halfway health check. Heat and dehydration can be fatal, and transporting them is a specialist skill.
You look all right, not moved very much. They're fairly quiet.
Nice and quiet. Excellent.
Looking good, okay.
But they can't afford to hang about. With sunrise in an hour's time, Giles is concerned they won't hit the delivery deadline.
We need to be on time. Traffic around London is notoriously bad, and that's our worst nightmare, is getting stuck in some sort of traffic jam in a situation where we can't ventilate the bees and they overheat.
Right, last part of the journey.
Let's get moving. It's getting lighter and lighter by the minute.
It is. A lot more traffic on the road now. It's amazing how much busier it's got all of a sudden.
I know. I mean, what's that, 20 minutes?
Yeah.
If that?
Maybe we shouldn't have stopped, to be fair.
Paul and Giles are not the first in their family to be faced with the stress of transporting bees. Their dad used to make the journey to the same Kent orchards.
Yeah, can you imagine making this journey like Dad had to down the old A1? Bumpy, gnarly little road, roundabouts every 10 miles.
Yeah. It'll be a lot longer a journey as well, though.
Hell of a lot long journey.
5 or 6 hours.
And then having to drive through London.
Oh, God.
But as the brothers head around the M25 onto the Dartford crossing with their honeybees, early morning traffic and the rising sun could leave them in a sticky situation.
I think once that sun's up, it'll start warming up really quickly.
And the bee roads can mean their journey has a sting in their tail.
Yeah, that's what we don't want.
That's what you don't like.
That is exactly what we don't want.
Big bumps in the road could do last-minute damage to the hives and seriously stress the bees.
We need to sort those roads out.
They're pretty rough, aren't they?
Oh,
that's what we don't want.
that's horrid.
Yeah.
Worst time to bang them is at the end of the journey.
That's it. They're ready to get out now, and yeah, we've been bumping them about a bit.
After a 5-hour trip, Paul and Giles have finally made it to the orchards.
Right, so here we are then, are we?
Yeah, we've arrived just in time. Sun's just come up.
Excellent.
Apple grower Stuart and his granddaughter Anna are buzzing with excitement about their new hives.
Morning. How are you doing?
Good journey.
It was all right, actually. Yeah, we made good time.
Good.
Nice to see you.
See you again.
Should we get started and get some
we
bees
get
in?
cracking on. Yeah.
Where should we put them then, Stuart?
Well, I think we put them in between the trees here.
Yeah.
They've got that orchard they can fly to, and there's one over the track there which you can see in the distance.
Okay.
Another one they can fly to.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
All right, let's get those out.
But how will the bees behave after their A1 road trip?
They're fairly quiet. They're not really roaring as they would be if we'd bumped them or they'd got too hot. They're nice and quiet, and I think we've made it here on good time, really.
It's a relief for the boys and means the hard work of unpacking the van can begin.
This is the first time I've ever seen them being set up anywhere, really, and it's amazing to think they've come so far this morning as well.
Within 3 hours, Paul and Giles have placed 30 hives containing almost 1 million bees.
We're just unblocking the hive so that the bees can get out. It's starting to warm up a bit now, so they'll be out flying in no time.
For Stuart, the bees signify the beginning of what he hopes will be a very successful growing year.
I must say I look forward to this time of year. I think that suddenly everything's waking up. We've got a nice lot of bloom. We've got the bees hopefully going to pollinate the bloom. And we look forward then to the little apples forming. So the whole thing will really start to be a hive of industry here.
And as the bees get to work in their new surroundings,
Have a safe journey home.
Thank you.
Thank you. Safe journey. Bye.
it's time for Paul and Giles to head back up the A1 to Lincolnshire to load up the next hives for their pollination service.